wanted to try a video series where pretty much I'm just talking directly to camera without many edits and cuts. Because one of the things that I realized when making these YouTube videos originally is I was very focused on making like really great B-roll or having a more cinematic look. And what I started to realize as I was doing more of that is I became more focused on the aesthetic of the video than the content of the video. I think I got the content somewhat right in some of the videos, but also in some of the videos I just felt like the aesthetic I was going for kind of took away from what I was trying to say, if that makes sense, because I was just more focused on it. And in life and in creation of content, you can only focus on so many things. And I think that if you're starting on YouTube, what I'm starting to realize, or at least what I'm going to start doing, is just being a little bit more focused on the actual content rather than the aesthetic. For other people, maybe that's not the best move, but for me, that's kind of what I want to do. But what I want to talk about today is something that I think is really important. It's something I've been reflecting a lot on lately, which is this idea of wherever you're at right now, wherever you're at in your life, one of the most important things that I've found you can do, and has helped me a lot, is defining the path that you're on. What that means is if you're going through life and you've got a lot of things going on, I imagine you got a lot of things going on. You have a job, you have things outside of work, maybe you're in a relationship, maybe you have some friends, maybe you have things going on with your parents and you're trying to navigate something there. Whatever that is, it's really important wherever you are in life to define the path that you're on. Think about it this way. If you've got a map and you're trying to figure out where you want to go, what's the first thing you need to do if you want to figure out where you want to go? You got to realize where you are. Because if you don't know where you are, the best map in the world is not going to help you out. If you think you are in Russia, but you're actually in China, you might have a hard time figuring out where you want to go. So the first thing, if you're going through life and you've got a lot going on, I really believe the best thing that anyone can do, and what I've started to realize, is to define the path that you are on, define where you're at, define the things that you're working for. This will help you figure out where you want to go. I've been reflecting a lot on this recently because I always have a lot going on. I've got this YouTube channel, I've got like a side project, which is an e-commerce project, which I'm super passionate about. I'm looking at real estate. I'm revising my mutual fund retirement investing strategy. I've got my job. I've got a meetup group of over 2,000 people, which I help run. I have a relationship, I've got friends. There's just so much going on in my life right now. It's just like, sometimes it can be like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on. And what I've realized is just the process of stepping back and saying, okay, well, what is the actual path I'm on, has helped me prioritize those things so it doesn't seem overwhelming all the time. And more importantly, it helps me map to a place that I want to go. And so what I'm starting to realize is the place that I'm in right now, like where I am in my life, and I'm just saying this so hopefully you can like take something from it, is I'm in a place where I'm trying to build a financially stable model for my life that will allow me to do a lot of the things that I want to do in life. I'm gonna step back from that a little bit. Like, I've always been really passionate about sailing. Like, being a sailor was a huge part of my life. For 5 years, I owned a sailboat, and I did a lot of sailing on Lake Michigan, and I restored that sailboat I had for 5 years, over 5 years, and just got it to a place where it was like everything I wanted it to be. And then this thing happened, which is that I realized that owning a sailboat is a liability, not an asset. And I realized it was in my best interest to sell that boat because in the long run, if I wanted to continue like sailing and living that kind of lifestyle, what I was doing with that boat at that time, with the income I had, which was fine, but it just wasn't enough to support that boat at the level I wanted to. Like, to continue doing what I was doing, I could continue doing it, but that was about all I could continue doing. So I sold this boat I had for like 5 years and really loved last year. So what I realized the path I'm on now is figuring out a way to to reverse engineer a life that allows me to do things like sailing, allows me to do creative projects in a way that's more sustainable. And like, that's the path I'm on. But just like putting that pin on the map and saying, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, has been very helpful. And the reason this is helpful is, like I said earlier, because you can't go anywhere if you don't know where you are, but also because people can't really help you, and you can't really help yourself if you don't know what your goals are. So let's put it this way. Someone comes up to you and they say, I can help you with exactly what you need help with. If you don't know exactly what you need help with, they're not going to be able to help you, right? And so the idea of just defining the path that you're on, so you know where you want to go, you know how other people can help you, is really important. But this idea also helps in one other way. There's a really good book by Viktor Frankl called A Man's Search for Meaning. I think that's what it's called. It's very close to that, if that's not exactly what it's called. And in this book, what Viktor Frankl talks about, and he's a really well-known psychologist, he actually survived the Holocaust, and he spent a lot of time thinking about what that whole thing meant and how some people were able to survive that. And one of the things that he came to the conclusion of is very important is placing meaning behind what you're doing. So if you're doing a bunch of things right now and they all kind of feel meaningless, or you can't see the meaning behind them, you're gonna have a hard time, one, doing them, but two, they're not gonna be fulfilling. So this idea of defining where you are in life, defining what you want, defining what your goals are, is really important, because in addition to helping you figure out where you are right now, helping you figure out where you want to go, it also places meaning behind what you're doing. And there's nothing worse. I really have come to the conclusion of this. There's nothing worse than just working on a bunch of stuff and feeling like it's kind of meaningless. If you're working on stuff, you want it to feel like there's meaning behind it. You want to feel motivated by it. And if you're not feeling motivated by what you're doing, the only reason you don't feel motivated is because you don't feel like there's meaning behind it. And you don't feel like there's meaning behind it, very likely because you don't see how it's actually going to help you get what you want. And that is probably because you don't really know what you want, or you haven't defined it. So if you define what you want in life, if you put a pin on that map and you say, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, it will help you get motivation by placing meaning behind what you're doing. It will help you figure out where you want to go just logistically on the map, the things that you need to do. It will help other people understand how they can help you, and that's so important. Like, nobody does anything on their own. Nobody was born and raised in a house they built. Like, people in life need help, and you need help too. I need help. We all need help. And we can't ask for the help that we need, or we can't receive the help that we need if we don't know the help that we need. So, defining the path that you're on really clearly, defining where you're at, what you're working towards, is one of the most important things that you can do. And sometimes you are working on multiple things. And that's just life. We all have multiple things that we're doing. For example, many of us have a job. We all have to show up to the job. We all have to do things that we need to support our role in our companies or organizations, whatever we work for. We also have things we're doing outside of work. And a big part of life is learning how to balance those. And so sometimes, most of the time, you have multiple things going on. It's still important to define what those are. Because as soon as you can define what those are, other people can help you with them. You can understand what the meaning is behind them, and you can navigate a proper course to where you want to go.